The problems with our patriarchal society. That's what today's video is about. We're going to talk about why having this patriarchal dominance culture or a patriarchal dominance society is so problematic. Now, many would argue maybe that, are we even still living in patriarchy? And the answer to that is yes, we are. And yes, we're moving beyond it. All right, so if you're new to the channel, this channel is all about empowering women to be the best of who they are, to realize their full potential, to live and look at life with more of the capacity to tune into the feminine and live holistically. And today we're going to talk about what the problems are with our patriarchal dominance culture. Now, first of all, just the statement, dominance culture, right? I want to define the fact that patriarchy comes from the idea of that the lineage comes from the men, okay? And that the men are the ones that are the leaders and the rulers in society, and the women are considered less important, less regarded. The real problem there, not that that in itself isn't a huge problem, because we're all human beings at the core, right? So right there we have this inequity. We still have women not making the same income that men do for the same job. It's changing, but it still happens. We still have attitudes that the men are the ones who know certain things or can do certain things because we've been used to turning to them as the ones who know or can get us out of a situation or can help guide us, right? We've really been trained into this way of thinking. But aside from the men-women issue, what's really problematic about the patriarchal dominance culture is that it is an ignorance of the feminine. Ignorance meaning lack of awareness, but also complete ignoring of the feminine. Women are more tuned into the feminine, men are more tuned into the masculine, but we all have both within us, okay? This is not about gender. This is about the qualities of the masculine and the feminine and the ways in which they are inherently within us all. And I believe as human beings, part of our task is to find balance, find equilibrium, find equanimity in these various qualities that we have, while also recognizing that we may be better or stronger at certain qualities. In other words, it is very traditional or common that women are more aware of and naturally tuned into the gifts of the feminine, and men more naturally turned into the gifts of the masculine. We can honor that there may be that distinction, just like some of us may be better at thinking with our analytical left brain, which is very masculine, and some of us might be better at being able to think with our more creative, artistic brain, so to speak, which is the right brain and is very feminine. We need both, and we need to honor that we're all going to have different aspects. But the problem with a patriarchal dominance culture is that we forget one side. And then what happens is, not only do you have this incredible imbalance of male-dominated structures dictating what's going to happen in life and in the rules and in politics and in finance and in education and everything else, you also have this tremendous lack of balance between the masculine and feminine. And what happens is even the masculine becomes incredibly unhealthy. Like the feminine and the masculine both become unhealthy. It's not just that the feminine is ignored, it becomes unhealthy, okay? Because women feel that oppression, or the feminine feels that oppression and can begin to become jealous or manipulative or domineering in their own way that is completely not the way true feminine masculine balance is meant to be. All right. Another huge problem with patriarchal dominance culture is that it perpetuates codependence. Now, I've done other videos on codependence before, and so I'm not going to get into the details of codependence here, but basically you're looking at this concept of the codependence triangle as it's known, where you have a victim, a perpetrator, and a savior or rescuer, right? And those roles kind of keep us stuck in this trap. You need a perpetrator for there to be a victim. You need a rescuer for their for that feeling of moving out of victimhood. And all of it takes the empowerment away from our true selves, right? Instead of being a victim, we have the capacity, when we can tap into this deeper balance of masculine and feminine, we have the capacity to move toward being a creator or a victor, right? And instead of being in this perpetrator space, we can begin to say, okay, I don't need to try to dominate something or control something. I can maybe guide or coach or work with something or challenge something, right? And same thing with the Savior. I don't need to rescue or fix something, but I can guide or coach something and bring questions and open things up. Those are qualities of the feminine. All right, so we start to flip that triangle, the top-down triangle of patriarchal dominance, and we flip it and we begin to look at things differently, so that we can begin to see that we really have new opportunities to balance ourselves, all right? Another problem with the patriarchal dominance culture is that we become so disconnected from ourselves, all right? When everything is built upon a hierarchy or this idea of dominance and control, the tendency, the training, the conditioning, the programming is that we learn to find ourselves outside of ourselves. We learn to listen to what everybody else thinks we should do, or follow the rules or follow the norm, instead of going after what we want or who we believe ourselves to be, or taking a unique path, right? So we really become more disconnected from who we are, which actually perpetuates and allows for the dominance culture to continue, all right? That leads me to the next piece, which is there's no questioning. That's one of the biggest problems in a patriarchal dominance culture. Because it's a hierarchy, it's a top-down model, there's no questioning. There's only a reliance upon the top. And when you don't question, you don't look at things from a new perspective. You don't look at things holistically. You don't consider other ideas and value other ideas. You just look to the top for the answer and you go do it, right? And when we don't question, we don't have diffuse awareness, we don't open ourselves up to new possibilities, we continue to make the same mistakes again and again and again, and we give up our power, right? We give it up because we're just relying on somebody to come and save us, right? Another problem with the patriarchal dominance culture is that we end up way out of balance and incredibly unhealthy, okay? There is just so much. This is why I love talking about holistic living and holistic wellness and well-being, because I believe that nothing happens in isolation, nothing happens in a vacuum. But a patriarchal dominance culture is looking at things with a very focused awareness, very specific, very one way to do things kind of approach. And we lose this balance and we automatically become unhealthy. Holism is about the whole being greater than the sum of the parts. And the masculine is very good at looking at the parts, focusing on one part at a time. And when we forget the feminine, when we ignore women and we take women out of the equation, or we hold them back on some level through a dominance culture, then we can perpetuate this kind of one-sided, focused, competitive approach to life that is all about the answer rather than looking at things from a healthier, more balanced approach, okay? And there are so many more problems with the dominance culture. I'm gonna do some more videos about patriarchy and some of the toxicity in it. So be sure to look for that and continue to stay tuned to the channel. I just want to continue having these conversations. What do you see as some of the biggest problems of the patriarchal dominance culture? Many of the things that I've shared here, they in themselves trickle down to become very specific problems, such as the abuse and sexual assault of women, or lack of feminine to balance the decision making and the processes that are happening at governmental levels and community levels and so on and so forth. It trickles down. By no means are the things that I'm sharing the only problems, but I tried to offer kind of some of the overarching problems. And like I said, I'm going to do a video on the toxicity of patriarchal dominance culture and what makes patriarchy toxic. So stay tuned for that, because I think it will continue the conversation. But in the meantime, I hope you'll subscribe so that you can be notified. Click the notification bell to be notified when the next videos come out. And let me know your thoughts in the comments about what you see as the problems of patriarchy. What do you wish would change? I would love to know what you would wish would change, because we can get that conversation going and start talking about what are some of the ways we might change it, because we can. We absolutely can. And we begin with ourselves. That's where it starts. This sense of tuning in to who we are, empowering ourselves from within. It's an inside job. It is not going to come from trying to make everything out there change. It has to come from changing the way we think within ourselves. So I hope that's helpful. I look forward to hearing your comments and seeing you in the next video.